All right, so welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be taking a look at the plant kingdom.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, from tiny mosses to giant redwoods.
Oh, wow. That's a big range.
It is a big range.
Yeah.
I'm excited. How about you?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Plants are kind of the basis for like all life on Earth, so understanding them is really important.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's crack open our textbook here,
Great.
and it starts by saying, imagine walking through a forest.
Okay.
You feel the soft moss underfoot, and ferns are sprouting out of fallen logs.
Yeah.
And these towering pines are reaching for the sky. Then you step into a clearing just like bursting with fireweed.
You've already seen all four major groups of the plant kingdom just in that little walk.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. And here's another thing. The plant kingdom is actually more diverse than mammals.
What? Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what sets these four groups apart?
So the book talks about vascular tissue and seeds. So vascular tissue is like the plant's plumbing system. It transports water and nutrients from roots to leaves.
Okay.
And some plants lack that, like mosses.
Okay.
They're non-vascular. Then you have plants with vascular tissue, and some of them reproduce with seeds, and some of them, like ferns, don't.
So how do those non-vascular plants survive? I mean, it's kind of strange to think of a plant without veins,
Yeah, that's a great question. And they have their own system. It's diffusion and osmosis.
So they just kind of like soak things up
Yeah, they're like natural sponges.
like a sponge in the sink.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then within that group, you have three divisions: mosses, hornworts, and liverworts.
Okay.
And they're really interesting because their life cycle is dominated by this thing called the gametophyte stage.
Oh, okay. Can you break that down for me? What is the gametophyte stage?
So like the green leafy part of a moss that you see,
Yeah.
that's the gametophyte.
Okay.
It's like the dominant form. That gametophyte produces the sperm and egg cells, and they actually need moisture for that sperm to swim to the egg.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The book actually has a diagram of that, figure 13.8.
Oh, perfect. Can we like walk through that?
Yeah. So when a sperm fertilizes the egg, it forms a zygote.
Right.
And that zygote develops into a sporophyte, which grows up on a stalk from the gamophyte.
Okay.
And the sporophyte produces spores, which are like these little resilient packages that can be dispersed by the wind.
Oh, cool.
And then if a spore lands in a suitable spot, it'll grow into a new gamophyte.
It's like a whole circle.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
Oh, that's really interesting. The book also mentions this biofact about a moss called Tortula ruralis,
Oh, yeah.
which can dry out completely but then spring back to life with just a little water.
Isn't that amazing?
It's like a superpower.
It is. And think about if we could understand like what genes allow it to be so resilient to drying.
Oh, yeah.
Think about what that could mean for agriculture, like drought-resistant crops.
Yeah. Especially with everything going on with climate change, that could be huge.
It could be huge.
All right. Well, should we move on to the next group?
Yeah, let's do it. What are we looking at next?
Okay. So now we're on to seedless vascular plants.
Okay.
And the book says it's like an evolutionary leap forward.
Yeah, they were dominant on the planet for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, picture this. 300 million years ago,
Yeah.
before the dinosaurs even,
Wow.
vast swampy forests covered the land.
Wow.
And these forests were made up of giant ferns.
forests before dinosaurs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So besides ferns, what other plants were there?
So whisk ferns, club mosses, horsetails,
Oh, wow.
and eventually those forests became the fossil fuels we use today.
So the gas in my car is powered by ferns.
Basically, yeah.
That's amazing. I'm kind of fascinated with these ferns now,
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
especially those giant ones from the Carboniferous period.
Yeah, well, what allowed them to thrive was a couple of things. So vascular tissue, of course,
Right.
allows for that efficient transport. But also they developed roots to anchor them and absorb water. A waxy outer layer called the epidermis, which prevents water loss,
Oh.
and stomata for gas exchange.
So they had like the ultimate survival kit.
They did.
Speaking of ferns, the book mentions these fiddleheads.
Oh, yeah.
Those are like the young fern fronds.
Yeah, they're a delicacy now.
They are. I see them on menus.
Yeah, some cultures have been eating them for centuries. And I've also read that the silky hairs on some tropical tree ferns' fiddleheads were used to stuff pillows and mattresses.
Wow. So from ancient forests to gourmet dishes to comfy beds.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I think we should move on to a real game changer. Seeds.
Yeah, seeds were a big step.
So seed-bearing plants are kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they are.
Seems like the ultimate survival strategy, right?
Yeah, they were able to conquer drier environments because of seeds.
Right.
And you can divide seed-bearing plants into two groups, gymnosperms and
Well,
angiosperms.
hey, what's the difference?
So gymnosperms have naked seeds, so the seeds are exposed on the scales of cones. And angiosperms have seeds that are enclosed within a fruit.
Okay, so gymnosperms, those are like pine trees and redwoods.
Exactly, like conifers.
Okay.
So think about a pine tree. They have separate male and female cones,
Okay.
and the male cones produce pollen, which is carried by the wind.
Okay.
And that's another big development, because pollen eliminates the need for water for fertilization.
No more swimming sperm.
Nope, just a little love letter in the wind.
That's very poetic. So what other adaptations do conifers have? Because they seem to thrive in like really cold places.
Oh, they have so many. So their pyramid shape helps them shed snow.
Yeah, okay.
Their needle-like leaves reduce water loss.
Okay.
And because they're evergreen, they can photosynthesize whenever the conditions are favorable.
Even in the winter.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Okay, let's talk about angiosperms.
Okay.
These are the flowering plants.
Yes.
There are so many of them.
So many. They're the most diverse group of plants. And their defining feature is those enclosed seeds tucked away inside a fruit.
So it's all about the fruit.
It is.
But what makes something a fruit?
Botanically speaking, it's a mature ovary that contains seeds.
Okay.
So a tomato is a fruit.
Oh,
A cucumber's a fruit.
really?
Even green beans are fruit.
My mind is blown. So we got these seeds protected inside fruits.
Yeah.
But how do they get around?
So they've evolved all sorts of ways. Some rely on the wind, some on water, and
Wow.
some they hitch a ride on animals.
Oh, yeah. Like those burrs that stick to your clothes.
Exactly. They get you to spread them around.
That's so cool. Speaking of cool adaptations, what about flowers? What role do they play in this?
Oh, the flowers are essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've evolved to attract pollinators, which are essential for their survival.
So like bees and butterflies?
Yeah, all of those guys.
Okay.
And it's like a co-evolution
Okay.
because they need the pollinators to carry the pollen from one flower to another. But the pollinators get something too. They get nectar and pollen.
So it's like a good partnership.
It is, yeah,
Mhm.
a mutually beneficial partnership.
The book mentioned flowers that open at night to attract bats.
Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, plants have adapted to attract all sorts of things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that specialization goes both ways. The color, shape, and even the scent of a flower act as signals to attract specific pollinators.
Oh, so it's like they each have their own signals.
Yeah, they have their own language.
Wow. So once a pollinator delivers the pollen, what happens?
Well, the pollen grain contains the male gamete,
Okay.
and that needs to reach the female gamete, which is in the ovule of the flower.
Okay.
So what happens is the pollen grain grows a pollen tube, which extends down through the style of the flower, reaching the ovary.
Oh, so it's like a tunnel.
Yeah, it's like a little tunnel.
Wow.
And then fertilization takes place.
Okay, and then we get a seed.
Then you get a seed.
Okay, so the fertilized ovule develops into a seed.
Yes, with the plant embryo and the food supply all in that seed coat.
Oh, that's so cool. And then the ovary develops into the fruit.
Exactly.
Okay, this is all making sense now. We got seeds, fruits. But you mentioned that angiosperms don't produce spores.
Yes.
But don't all plants have spores? I remember learning about those.
You're right. Spores are important in other plant groups,
Okay.
but angiosperms work a little differently.
Okay.
The pollen grains and the ovules are actually remnants of what we call the gametophyte generation.
So it's like miniaturized.
Yeah, it's not a separate stage like it is in mosses.
Wow.
Oh.
So the sporophyte generation is dominant.
Yeah.
And that's the plant that we see.
Exactly.
And the gametophyte generation is reduced to those tiny structures.
It's amazing how evolution can streamline things, isn't it?
It really is. Okay, one last question.
Okay.
The textbook mentions almost half of all angiosperms are polyploid.
Oh, yeah.
What does that even mean?
So it just means they have more than 2 sets of chromosomes,
Okay.
usually because of some irregularity during cell division.
So is that a bad thing?
No, it can actually be beneficial.
Really?
Yeah, it can lead to larger cells, thicker leaves, bigger fruits.
So they're like the supersized version.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, that's really cool.
It's played a big part in the evolution of our food plants, like strawberries, bananas, potatoes.
Wow, polyploidy is a superhero.
That's one way to look at it.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the big picture.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot,
We have.
from mosses to flowering plants.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how plants have adapted to thrive in all these different environments.
It is, and it's not just about their survival.
Yeah.
It's about all the life that they support. They provide food and shelter for so many things.
Including us.
Yeah, from the air we breathe to the food we eat, we really depend on plants.
That's so true.
They're like the foundation for most ecosystems.
Wow. You've really opened my eyes to the plant world.
I'm glad.
I never realized how important they were.
It's a whole other world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And the learning never stops. There's always something new to discover.
So true.
And when we think about that interconnectedness we've been discussing, we've been talking about how amazing plants are and how they've adapted.
Right.
But they're not isolated. Their survival depends on these complex relationships.
Well, yeah.
Like with pollinators, seed dispersers, even decomposers.
It's just like this big web.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
It is.
And it makes you wonder what happens when that balance is disrupted. Like what happens with deforestation or habitat loss or climate change?
That's a good question. And a little scary.
It is. It is something to think about.
Yeah.
What are the consequences of that for the ecosystems that they support?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It is something to consider.
It is. It is.
Well, on that note, I think we should probably wrap up this section. And then when we come back, we can delve into some of those questions.
I'm ready.
All right. So let's think about deforestation for a minute. When we clear all those forests for agriculture or logging or, just building houses and stuff,
Yeah.
what happens to all those plants?
I mean, a lot of them would probably just disappear.
Right? Yeah, they lose their habitat.
Yeah.
And, some of them might even go extinct.
Yeah, that's sad.
It is sad, and it's not just about the plants.
Right, because everything's connected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the animals that rely on those plants, they suffer too.
Oh, yeah. They need those plants for food and shelter.
Exactly.
So it's like a chain reaction.
It is. One thing leads to another.
And it can mess up the whole ecosystem.
It can throw everything off balance.
Wow.
And it's not just about the animals either.
What else?
It can mess up the water cycles.
Really?
Yeah, lead to soil erosion, even change the local climate.
That's crazy.
It's all connected.
So what about climate change? How's that affecting everything?
Well, climate change is a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
with the rising temperatures and the changes in rainfall
Right.
and all the extreme weather events.
Yeah, the droughts, the floods.
Exactly. It's a lot of pressure on the plants.
So they can't adapt.
Well, some plants can shift their ranges,
Okay.
move to a better climate,
Right.
but some plants just can't do that.
Yeah.
And then as temperatures rise, we also see more pests and diseases.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it can wipe out whole plant communities.
That's scary. Is there anything we can do?
There is. There's always hope.
Okay.
I mean, our actions make a difference.
Okay.
So like supporting sustainable agriculture, conserving water,
Right.
reducing our carbon footprint,
Okay.
all those things help.
They do. But what about the big picture?
Well, we need policies that protect habitats
Okay.
and invest in research and innovation to fight climate change.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a global effort.
It is.
It's going to take everyone working together.
Governments, organizations.
Yeah, everyone.
So it's individual actions and big changes, too.
It is.
I feel like I've learned a lot.
I'm glad. It's been fun talking about plants.
It has. You really opened my eyes to how important they are.
And how cool they are.
Yeah. And now I want to do my part to protect them.
Good. That's what we want, because
Yeah.
they really are essential for life on Earth.
They are. Thanks for taking me on this journey through the plant kingdom.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
It has.
Always more to learn.
That's true.
Each discovery just gets us closer to understanding the natural world.
It does. It does.
So we were talking about deforestation.
Right, and all the things that can disrupt that balance.
Yeah, all the things that can impact plants.
Yeah,
It's kind of scary to think about.
it is. What can we do about it, though?
Well, there are things we can do, both as individuals and as a society.
Okay.
Like we can all try to reduce our environmental impact,
Right.
like supporting sustainable agriculture,
Yeah.
conserving water, reducing our carbon footprint.
All good things.
All those little things add up.
They do. But what about the big picture stuff?
Well, we need policies that prioritize conservation, protect natural habitats,
Yeah.
invest in research and innovation to address climate change.
For sure. Those are important.
It's a global effort.
It really is.
It's going to take all of us working together,
Governments, organizations, individuals.
everyone, to create a more sustainable future.
Well, this deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Glad to hear that.
It's made me realize how important plants are
They really are.
and how much we rely on them.
For everything.
Yeah, and how much they're threatened by our
Oh,
actions.
yeah. That's the tough part.
It is.
But we can all do our part to protect them.
We can. I'm feeling inspired to make a difference.
Good. That's what I like to hear.
Thanks for all this amazing information.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure talking about plants with you.
It has.
I hope you learned a lot.
I did.
And that you'll look at plants in a new light now.
I will. I will.
Awesome.
Well, that's it for our deep dive today.
Thanks for joining us.
Be sure to check out our next episode where we'll be
diving into a whole new topic.
Exactly. See you then.